Hi, Eric.
What's going on?
It's a pleasure to see you. I did not expect that this interview would occur with you being in a studio. Uh, uh, you know, uh, to set this up for our classmates, Eric Tansey and I met in what must have been late 2009 in Camp Blanding, because that was my first drills with a unit. And he and I were in the Florida Army National Guard together for a while. And then we each went our own way. And we stayed in touch. And Eric has had just extraordinary career since that happened. Eric, please correct me, but among other things, he became a police officer in the Raleigh-Durham Police Department, um, as part of which he was featured in a state-wide training video for proper use of force when threatened with great bodily harm or death. And but eventually he started what is obviously the most normal business for a cop, which is a distillery. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how that happened. Now he, of course, has a podcast that has more than 1 million downloads, but I didn't know about that before I called him, and that's going to be part of the deal. So, Eric, would you briefly talk about your business, how it started, and the challenges involved with that?
One, the statewide training video was actually titled "Stay in the Fight" because it's really just me getting my face pushed in and just not giving up. So I didn't do anything awesome there. I just got beat up really bad and then still made the arrest. So it wasn't as exciting as you make it out to be. So basically I was just really good at getting beat up.
Well, the guy was high.
Yes,
very things. I remember. Yeah.
Very high. He was very high. But yeah, anyway, and for the business part, I've always been a wine guy. When we were in the military, I was a big wine guy, and I always liked exploring wine. When I got out of the military, I wanted to be a wine salesman, actually. So after a couple of deployments, I was like, I'm going to get out. I'm going to be a wine salesman. Realized I was a terrible salesman. Should have stayed in the military. And the only other thing a C student without a college education can do that has military experience is become a cop. So I became a Raleigh police officer, but my love for wine never faded. And I ended up enrolling myself through the Society of Wine Educators in an online course through the Gallo Wine Academy, became a certified specialist of wine a couple of years later, then became a sommelier through the Guild of Master Sommelier program. And then I started teaching wine classes on the side of being a cop, but I really loved doing things. I don't like teaching so much. I like to do. I don't want to tell people how to do things. I just want to be the guy that does things. And I had an opportunity to create some rum, and that's what I did. So that's how I got started.
Well, there's a lot of work being done by. I had an opportunity to create some rum. So let's unpack that a bit.
Okay.
You had a partner who came up with the idea, who came up with the money. If somebody wants to start a rum company, how does that happen?
So it kind of started, we were having I was teaching a wine class, and anytime I would say, like, the biggest piece of advice I could ever give anybody is, if there's an opportunity, you take it. Somebody asks you to be on a podcast, you go on it. Somebody asks you to do a Zoom meeting, you do it. I was teaching a wine class. A lawyer was in the class. He was like, "You're a cop?" And I was like, "I am." He's like, "I'm a lawyer." I was like, probably not going to be friends, but continue. And he said, "You should come to my law firm sometime and try some of my wine." I did. We became good buddies. And I went on a rant on why I thought craft spirits were kind of failing in the United States at that time. And he said, "Man, you would be great at making spirits. You've got a great nose. You got a great palate. And dude, you should do something. You should make or create something." And I went home that night, and I woke up the next morning. And I told my wife, I said, "I'm going to open up my own distillery." She said, "No, that's fine. You're a cop. That's not, let's be real here." I went to work that day. It was a Sunday. And I just wrote a business plan while I was bored sitting behind a church in my cop car. And I Googled, actually. I spent all day Googling how to write a business plan. And then I spent about 4 months exploring other distilleries, exploring a business plan. I pitched it back over to the lawyer to have him read it before I went and found an investor. And he just said, "Hey, man, I'm all in on this. Like, I'll fund it if you create it."
Okay. And do you mind sharing with us, like, how much money did you think it was going to take?
So we started with $200,000, and we found a lease. Opening up a distillery is extremely difficult. And I thought the thing that held most distilleries back were they were not able to be creative because of the amount of debt they were in, and they were forced to get liquor out early. So I knew that if we could keep the investment very low, then I wouldn't be under so much pressure to be able to explore making liquor the right way, making it taste good, rather than just coming up with a recipe, getting it out as fast as I can to start paying back on the loans or however you acquired your money. So really it was just, I made the plan to do everything myself and keep our budget as low as possible so that I could explore and experiment with different styles of rum. And we're the first distillery in the United States, arguably in the world. I'm sure somebody else is doing it, but we're the only people on the books doing it. And we're using dehydrated cane juice that we get over from India. And nobody's ever done that before. And I think the only reason we were able to explore that, and we have, we won the gold. We had a master sommelier blindly grade and rate our rum knowing nothing about it, and gave us the gold medal saying, finally an American rum with the funk, which you just have to kind of Google what rum funk is to understand that. But I think the reason why we were so successful at the beginning with having one of the most flavorful or one of the most unique American rums that taste more like a traditional rum from the Caribbean or from the Martiniques or Dominican is because we were allowed to have that time to explore, because we weren't under the gun. We didn't owe a whole bunch of people a lot of money.
Sure. So under the traditional analysis, this lawyer was what we consider an angel investor, right? So would you mind, and if not, you don't have to say it, but like what percentage did he get for the money he put in?
So we did 50-50. We split 50-50. Well, actually he put the money in and I put the labor and the work in. Right. So that's how we kind of split that. And he took care of all the paperwork, all the legal stuff, still does. And I take care of all the day-to-day operation stuff. That's how we split that.
And so how did you find your first employees, given that you've never run a distillery? I mean, how did you think of approaching
that? I did it all myself and it was really rough. I was closing the bar at 9 p.m. And then I would go home and I would sleep till about 1:45 a.m. I would get up, I would head to the distillery at 2 a.m. I would distill until 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. I would come home, take a quick nap, brush my teeth, shave, wake up, kind of like get a quick nap in, get up at noon, do sales till about 3 or 4, get back to the distillery, open up the tasting bar, do tours from 5 to 9, and then repeat that process. I did that for about a year. Whenever I ran into problems, I would call a guy who's a fermentation scientist, and I'd ask him a lot of questions. And then one day I just said, "Hey, dude, if I just paid you to come work here, what would I have to pay you to come work here for me, like part-time?" And he gave me a number. I agreed to it. He came, and then that ended up helping us a lot. So he ended up coming on full-time, left where he was at before.
What year, I should have asked you, what year did you start the business?
We started building the business in 2018. And I think we started in 2017 and we opened in 2019.
I remember there was something that happened with your job as a cop when you.
Yeah. So one of the things that we never accounted for, wasn't part of the plan, was I was a police officer at the time in Wake County. My distillery is in Johnston County. So it's a county over, and it's about 30 minutes from Raleigh, from where I worked. The way the policy was written as a police officer, it said you couldn't sell or distribute alcohol, but it didn't say you couldn't manufacture it. So I had cleared it with the police department as being able to manufacture it, because they're saying, well, the policy doesn't say that. As long as you're not selling it and as long as you're not distributing it. And I wasn't. I was just simply manufacturing it. Somebody else was going to be in charge of selling and distribution. Matter of fact, the state is in charge of the distribution. So I can't even break the law there. And they were all like, I mean, it was definitely a gray area, but after about 6 months of people debating it, they were like, yeah, this is fine. You can do it. Well, 2 days before, and the plan is that we would do this part-time. We'd both have full-time jobs so that our full-time jobs could help pay for rent. If anything went wrong or went south, we kind of had our own jobs going for us. 2 days before we opened, the city manager of Raleigh called me in their office and said that they didn't like it and they felt it was unbecoming of a police officer. So I was officer of the year, fired in the same year for simply opening up a distillery. And the way the paperwork reads was the values of a police officer do not coincide with the values of a distillery owner.
That's insane. Oh my Lord. So, all right. So you said you won, this award that is the first time somebody in the U.S. wins it, or that.
What's that?
What other accomplishment related, in terms of the business, are you proud of, or are you proud of?
Like I said, I think the thing I'm probably most proud of is the opportunities that I've gotten to take. And I don't know where this came from. I don't know that I heard it anywhere. It's just something that I did. And if there's an opportunity, if somebody asks me to be somewhere and I'm physically able to do it, I always go. And out of this distillery project, I was able to go on a nationally recognized podcast for something else. It was random. I had never podcasted before. And then a year after that, I actually got hired by the network to do my own show, which then led to another network opportunity to do another show. Now I do podcasts full time, and that's all because of the distillery. And I also was able to get into the state of Florida with my rum because of the podcast. The person at Universal Studios happened to hear this podcast and reached out to us and said, we want to get your rum here at one of our hotels. And they were able to get us in the Florida market. So I think one of the biggest things that I've learned from this is that if you're starting your own business, man, any opportunity you have to learn or to grow that business, take that opportunity, because you never know. If there's a tour that comes in and you're about to close, do the tour. If somebody comes in, you're about to close the door, keep the doors open. If there's an opportunity in front of you, take it. You never know where that's going to lead. That's the biggest thing I've learned. You have no idea.
So thank you for that, Eric. If anybody listening to this or watching this wants to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Actually, one of the cool things is our website, Instill Distilling Company. Instead of having a pop-up that says email us, it's actually a phone number. It says talk to a real person. That is my personal cell phone number. People call it at 2 a.m. They call it at 3 a.m. just to see if it really works. It really does. I answer it all the time. It's something when I was a police officer, we were required to have our phones on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you didn't answer your phone, then you could be written up. So I was very used to having a phone next to me. And when I stopped being a cop after 8 years, I said, you know what, I'm already used to it. And I think it's a really cool thing to have. So if you go to my website, Instill Distilling Company, wait about 10 seconds, there'll be a pop-up that says, talk to a real human. That's my cell phone. And you can call me anytime or email me. I'm very responsive. So I always, I see that again as an opportunity. If you're reaching out to me, I'm going to get back to you.
Thank you again, Eric. It's been a real pleasure.
All right, man. Thanks, George.